What's up, everybody, and welcome once again. This is a live edition of Syracuse Sports, the spring football recap edition. You got Brent Axe, you got Javon Edmonds here. We got plenty of comments from our Syracuse Sports Insiders, which we are going to get to. And boy, what a day to be a Syracuse Sports Insider. You got exclusive video from the quad. When we broke the news that Rickie Collins Jr., Syracuse's starting quarterback, would not be participating in the spring game today, our Syracuse Sports Insiders were the first to know. Commentary from the game, answering your questions from the game. I met a bunch of you guys. Javon met a bunch of you guys today out there, either on the quad or in the dome. Big shout out to my guy Scott, who was our Syracuse Sports Insider Bracket Challenge winner, who delivered his prize at the Dome today, courtesy of our friends at Heritage Hill and Syracuse Sports Insider Dan Palladino. So what a day to be a Syracuse Sports Insider. We appreciate your comments and questions as always. And Javon and I have plenty to report to you from the spring game. If you care about the score, the blue team did beat the orange team 16-14, which is interesting, Javon, because most of the starters were on the orange team, right? So a couple quarterbacks, couple turnovers, couple things happened that swung the game the blue team's way. So I'm sure they were happy that they beat a roster that was full of most of the guys we had projected on the two deep to start on this team. So a victory for them for sure today in the Dome. We will get to that. And the quarterback situation, the kicking situation's a little dicey right now. We learned after the game that one of the kickers is trying to become eligible for another year on the team, and what is the NCAA doing NCAA things, basically, as we will get into. Some units that shined, some units that are of concern in the spring game, and all the highlights that we saw, including Mr. Two-Way, Demetrius Samuel Jr., and everything you guys need to know from the spring game today. But, Javon, I turn to you first. Your first Dome experience, let alone your first Syracuse spring game experience today. And Javon's takeaways are up on syracuse.com. You guys can read that. But what was your biggest takeaway from today and seeing this team in a game-like scenario versus the practices we've been going to the past couple of weeks?
And throughout the spring, I had questions about the corners room because it's so young, and like you watch them in drills, and like I'm not going to single the dude out, but there was one particular player that I remember distinctly talking to you and Chris about after one practice. Like, teams can throw at him, and he had a rough day today in the spring game. And just the corners as a whole, just the pass rush and the safeties are going to help that group out because they're going to need it. They're young, so that's where that's supposed to happen. But the corners were glaring to me today. And the defensive tackles, I'll be honest with you, I did not expect that good of a running game from both offenses. Like, I thought at least the ones would be able to hold the twos. So I don't know if that's just Syracuse should be proud of its offensive linemen on both sides, on both units, in the vision and eye discipline of their running backs, or if that's another bad sign. But yeah, the defense just was not great today, to be honest with you. Set aside the two interceptions that were caught, including the game-winning interception. I will give Brahim Long his credit for that. But
Brahim Long sealed the deal for the blue team with an interception. Jaleel Martin had an interception on Jakhari Williams as well. And our projected two deep, which is still up on syracuse.com, went like this. So Demetrius Samuel, Davion Kerr, Greg Delane. Then you go to Nickelback, where you have Barry Buxton, Brahim Long, who we mentioned made an interception today, Deuce Chestnut, who was an MVP of spring practice. They were handing out their MVP awards throughout the day at the Dome as well. Cornell Perry, and I remember Devin Grant has been out. He was inactive today, as he's been in a green jersey, non-contact throughout spring, and Ibn McDaniel. So a room that needs experience, and a room, remember, was facing all backup quarterbacks today. You kind of wonder if Rickie Collins did play in this game, and we're going to have to wait to see Rickie in game action when Syracuse plays Tennessee on August 30th to start the season.
Who is now looking for a quarterback.
who's looking for a quarterback. If you saw the big news today that they've got a guy who is going to get paid $2.5 million. That's not good enough. Let me renegotiate that. Tennessee said no, and now he's in the transfer portal. And there's another question we'll get to more in depth next week, Javon, of who are some players that could end up in the transfer portal in that short spring window that opens next week in football. But Syracuse brought in Rickie Collins out of the transfer portal. He won the starting quarterback job, but he did not play today. So for those of you that don't know, most of you maybe have heard one thing or the other during the day, but maybe some of you tuning in have not heard. So Rickie Collins did not play today. It was just precautionary. It's a thumb injury. He had a wrap on his hand. Fran Brown saying afterwards that they just wanted to be careful about this, think about the future. It's not going to affect him long term. It's not going to affect him even in the short term. In terms, I mean, there's only one more practice next week, but in the summer workouts, fall camp, he's fine by all measures. They just wanted to be careful not to further aggravate what was it looked to be like a jam thumb or something going on with his on his throwing hand. So you don't want to mess around with that. So Jakhari Williams, Javon, I think made the most of his opportunity today, and I think grabbed the backup quarterback job, which is somewhat of a surprise because I think in every rep that I saw in practice throughout camp, it would go in some order: Rickie Collins Jr., Michael Johnson Jr., but Jakhari Williams was always third in that rotation, right? So you're thinking maybe he's QB3, but I think he went out there and won the backup job today. He had some terrific passes today, a 46-yard strike to Justice Ross Simmons, who also had a pretty good day for Syracuse. He had a 25-yarder. He had a nice touchdown throw to Emmanuel Ross, somebody who I think looked good today, as we'll go over the receivers here shortly. Fran said afterwards, you can fill us in exactly what he said, Javon, but basically intimated afterwards, like, I want him to take this job, and he's pretty much close to doing it. So with Rickie out, this became a game basically to say who's number two, and I think coming out of spring ball, Jakhari Williams is the backup quarterback of this team.
Yeah, not only does Fran want him to be the backup, I'll take you somewhere else on this one. The fact that a seventh-year guy is competing with a second-year guy for backup says enough. Like, you should be the clear front runner for that job. So if you're in a competition for that, might as well give it to the young guy anyway. So, yeah, you mentioned potential portal targets next week. Mike Johnson Jr. is clearly number one on my list. But yeah, Fran wants Jakhari to be the backup. He said on Monday he feels like Jakhari can be the backup. I like what he saw from him last year on the scout team. I used the word dominant, actually, to describe Jakhari Williams on the scout team last season. And then today, let's just think about this. Who did Michael Johnson play with?
The twos.
And how long did he play?
The whole game. With the twos. Every time he was out there.
He didn't play the second half.
Right, that's what I mean. Let me rephrase that. When he did play, it was always with the twos. He didn't get any opportunities with the ones. As we said, the orange team was mostly the ones. And
the orange team was the ones, yeah.
They did not give Michael Johnson Jr. any reps with the orange team today. And he didn't play in the second half, as you noted, which was pretty telling.
Jakhari Williams played the entire first half with the ones, set out the first drive of the second half, and then came back out for one more drive, which ended in an interception to Jalil Martin. But that's all you need to know. When you see that and you hear Fran talk about Jakhari, and he says he wants him to be the backup, that's all she wrote for Michael Johnson.
Seems so, and it's a shame because, of course, his father's a coach on the team, and there's a family environment there. You've got a number of father-son connections on this team. Fran Brown's son is on the team. Jeff Nixon's son, Will Nixon, is on the team. So you would think Michael Johnson Jr. this far down the road, Javon, as you mentioned, in his seventh year, you just ride it out at Syracuse, right? Just even though you're the backup quarterback, but now maybe relegated to third. I don't blame him if he wants to go in the portal. It would appear that he's certainly a candidate to do it. That's just a tougher road to walk into a situation out of April camp that you didn't even win the backup job at Syracuse and expect to win a job somewhere else. That's going to be a tough beat for him. We'll see if he sticks around and guts it out here. But look, Jakhari, They kind of did him wrong on the Syracuse social media, Javon, because when they showed, I think they call them the strap mob, the secondary, when they showed interceptions, quite often they were from Jakhari Williams. And we had talked about some situations we had seen Jakhari in camp, or maybe his decision making was a hair too late. But mechanically and fundamentally, Jakhari always looks good. So for Jakhari to come out there today and make those throws, to make some deep throws, to put some spin on the ball, to look good, mobility. He did throw that one interception we mentioned to Martin, but look test, there is no question that Jakhari passed the test, and I think kind of put some fears aside. When they gave him a run with the ones, he did not drop the ball. He did not. You don't walk away from this game saying, oh, man, there is no way he should be in that conversation. Whereas, unfortunately, for Michael Johnson Jr., he hasn't overwhelmed me at camp in what I've seen. And certainly today, there was nothing that made me say, you've got to keep that guy in the competition for QB2, because Fran had mentioned that he wants that competition to go through fall camp as well, but they're probably going to wrap that up pretty quickly, especially if he takes that opportunity to go in the portal. Other quarterbacks, Javon, I'll tell you what, young Luke Carney made a couple of great throws in this game. He's kind of got that Russell Wilson rainbow arc on his throws, so he's got to work on that. But man, he put a 40-yard pass into the hands of Darius Johnson, young Darius Johnson.
That was a breakout player today.
He was definitely a breakout player, so we'll get to with the receivers. He also, Luke Carney, made a great throw to Demetrius Samuel, but Samuel was just out of bounds on that one, but a great throw nonetheless. You had Rich Beelan come in, who reminded me a little bit. Somebody texted me this, and I said, I could see where you're going there. Not talent level, but style of play. Looked a little like Kyler Murray out there. He made a great 40-yard strike in this game as well, took advantage of his opportunities and shined out there a little bit. So if one of these quarterbacks goes, and it seems inevitable they're going to, who kind of ticks up the list today, and Luke Carney and Rich Beelan made a case to say, hey, maybe we can compete for that backup job at some point with Jakhari sooner rather than later.
So a few things I want to tackle. Darius Johnson, breakout today. Breakout. That's number
64
one.
yards on the day. I'm starting to see some stats trickle in from today. Yeah.
Number 2, Demetrius Samuel. That guy was practicing. See, you got players that are fine with Saturday catches. Then you got guys that want to make Sunday catches.
Yeah.
Now, when I say that, I mean 1 feet and 2 feet. Demetrius Samuel was out there trying to make Sunday catches. That's what I like to see out of college receivers. I am a firm believer that college should play 2 feet. Very strong believer. So anybody I see that actually goes out there and makes the dedicated effort to make Sunday catches wins me over. I liked Rich Beelan. Accuracy is going to improve, but you said Kyler Murray. I'm going to take I'm going to scale you back and give him a more accurate college comparison. And I didn't think I'd be talking about my alma mater today, but at some point in the pod, I'm going to bring it up. But
here comes the Temple reference. There you go.
Rich Beelan reminded me of P.J. Walker today. Like what I saw from him. But yeah, Brent, I fully expected to be the only owl in the JMA Dome today, and that was not the case. And the main reason I expected to be the only owl in the building is because my Owls had their spring game today down in North Philly. So you want to talk about Fran Brown and Elijah Robinson's former players, loving them? Yeah, to see Jihad Thomas and Quincy Roche up there. And I'm sure when I talk to Fran Monday, he'll let me know it was more than just those two. To see them up here instead of down on 10th and Diamond
that's telling.
Something, to say the least. Yeah.
It shows their passion for Fran and their loyalty to Fran. And we were talking a little bit at the Dome today. Temple's in a bit more of a mess than Syracuse is, especially at their spring game. Yeah. So to see that was certainly interesting.
Yeah, Fran said he wants Jihad on his staff at some point. He said he almost cried when he saw Jihad. His wife loves Jihad. He said his son Braden watches Jahad's highlights all the time. He said, sometimes I think Braden wants to be Jahad Thomas. I said, hey, bring Jahad on staff when Braden starts playing for you. He said,
Hey, look,
you might be on to something.
It's a growing staff. We've seen them add a bunch of offensive and defensive analysts, former coordinators, Broyles Award winners. You've got Will Muschamp hanging out for a week during spring ball as that staff gets bigger, and Fran is leaving no stone unturned when it comes to bringing in consultants. Tom Coughlin, of course, was around right around the time they had that coaching clinic. So you never know who you're going to see at a Syracuse spring game or a practice for sure. Now, we gave a lot of love while we're on the receiver front, Javon, to go back to that Darius Johnson. Jalen Hornsby had a big day, too. 5 catches, 112 yards today, if you go by the stats that Syracuse kept on the blue team. So he's working with Michael Johnson Jr. He's working with, the quarterbacks that, let's face it, aren't getting a lot of run in practice, but he became their target. And I don't think he's going to crack that receiver rotation. I mean, it's Pena, Daryl Gill Jr., along with Malachi James and Malachi Coleman, not there today because they were at their track meet at Duke. Justice Ross Simmons, who we mentioned, who has clearly made his way into the 3-4 man rotation at receiver. And we mentioned Emmanuel Ross looking good as well. But Hornsby is knocking right on that door and is going to get on the field sooner rather than later. And Darius Johnson having that day that he did today with 64 yards, getting open, showing he's a deep threat, is somebody that it's going to be a hard rotation to crack with the names that are ahead of him. But this is what you do at the spring game. You take advantage of your opportunity and you show out a little bit that when they turn to you, you're going to be ready to go. And that inevitable next man up that's going to come when some players start getting dinged up. Those are two right there that are going to be ready to step in and really took advantage of their opportunities today.
And I'll say this about Hornsby. When Syracuse goes 5 wide, they go empty and 5 wide this season. They've got every reason to go 5 receivers, not 4 and a tight end, not 3 a tight end and a running back, not 4 and a running back. They've got every reason to go 5 wide this year because none of those tight ends are wowing us as pass catchers. I don't remember calling the tight end's name today at all.
Yeah, they were pretty quiet.
And the backs are good, but if you can have a receiver out there, why not? Hornsby, as you said, made a damn good case for himself for when they go 5 wide, Pena in the slot, and you figure out where else you want to put Gill, Ross Simmons, Ross, and Hornsby. I think that is your 5 wide formation right there. So when they go empty and decide to spread teams out this season, get ready for fireworks.
And as we mentioned, Demetrius Samuel getting in the mix too. They really wanted him to get a catch or two today. It wasn't for lack of effort. He was targeted, I think, 6 times, if I'm not mistaken. And like we said, he had a couple of deep throws just thrown over his head. That throw on the sideline, as you put it, trying to make the 2 feet catch, just couldn't quite get in bounds on that one. But they have not hidden this throughout camp, and they have put the notice out there that he is going to play on both sides of the ball. And we mentioned the struggles the secondary made. He made a great defensive play. He kind of stuck out his hand on a back shoulder throw, knocked it away with one hand. And I think if you're somebody that had just heard about Demetrius Samuel and you went to the Dome today and I'm like, I got to get my own 2 eyes on this guy, I think you walked out of there today saying, okay, I get it. I get it. Why this guy is going to be on the field and looking like going to be on the field as a starting cornerback and as somebody that's going to get in at receiver, even as deep as that room is, as we were just saying.
I see. Now, that's where I don't disagree with you. Is I have questions about Demetrius Samuel. They don't need him at receiver. Right now, this year, they don't need him at receiver.
You can make
They
that case.
need him at corner. I am perfectly fine if for this year the focus for Demetrius Samuel is at corner. Like, hey, Demetrius, we promise we're going to fulfill our promise of you playing both sides of the ball. But for season, as a freshman looking at this team, we're going to need you. Probably thought it was going to be 75-25, more like 90-10. For every 9 defensive plays, you can get 1 offensive.
And look, Fran is a secondary coach. You got to put your faith there. But you're making a great point, Javon, in the sense that that percentage is going up. It's not just, hey, this kid's pretty good, we got to get him on the field. It has become, no, we need you on that field. That's why he has locked down a number one cornerback spot, because he's that talented in what is a young and inexperienced room, that he's the playmaker out there at corner that they need. That's how quickly he has emerged and the kind of talent that he is. He was the highest recruited player coming in his class. So you certainly got your fill of Samuel if you were at the Dome today. By the way, 14,483 tickets were distributed to this game. That's the second highest in Syracuse history for a spring game. Last year was the highest at over 16,000. And I think there was probably a legit 10,000 people or so at the Dome today. We were wandering around on the quad afterwards, the quad walk. The team signed autographs for about an hour in a light mist. Thankfully, it wasn't raining too hard by the time they got to the quad, but it certainly was, we were kind of wondering, like, are they going to put them under some tents or something? They're just kind of sitting out on these tables in the mist, but plenty of fans got to see some of their favorites and get some autographs and catch up with the team and Coach Fran, and a much better quad walk than last year, Javon. Fran was not happy with how things went last year. It was kind of put together last minute and not the way he wanted it. This year, much more organized, and many more Syracuse fans were ready to greet the team out there. And we have a question about this we'll get to from our insiders about why even have a spring game. And there's, Syracuse tried to play Colorado, right? They tried to spice it up, and a lot of teams are canceling spring games. But I think Syracuse, for the most part, did a good job today showing why you do an all-day event here and you make it a thing. A couple other names I wanted to mention, a couple other positions, Javon. Jordan Montanez at running back. I got to admit, this is not a guy who caught my attention at all during the spring. Just not somebody I latched onto, not somebody that I looked at and said, hey, look at this guy. Yassine Willis did start and scored a touchdown. He had 34 yards. Nothing to dispute that he's the number one running back on this team. Remember, Will Nixon is in a green jersey right now recovering from the List Frank, so he was not going to play. Jaden Hart has had his moments at camp and has gotten some run with the ones, but didn't have, a breakout run today. So here's Jordan Montanez, who gets 14 carries, 60 yards on the ground, scored a touchdown. Like we were saying with Hornsby and Darius Johnson and some of these younger guys, he was given the spotlight, and he at least said, okay, in a running back room that maybe I'm not in the rotation for right now, I'm going to knock on the door and get in there at some point. He took advantage of his opportunities. Bouncy, he's quick. What is he listed at here? 5'9", 205. So certainly got to get a little bigger, right? But I liked what I saw from Montanez today. There's a guy I feel good about. I don't know what he's going to do if he gets 20 carries a game or something like that, but somebody who you kind of shook your head and say, okay, this guy could play a little bit here. And again, somebody that through camp, I don't think I wrote down his name once. I don't know if you noticed him throughout camp, Javon, but not a guy that got on my radar, but he did today.
No, he made some plays in the screen game also. He wowed me today. As you said, I thought if anyone not named Yassine Willis was going to be the running back we talked about today, it was going to be Jaden Hart, just because Malachi James wasn't there, Malachi Coleman wasn't there, Will Nixon's recovering from injury, and Jeff Nixon seems to really like Jaden Hart. Jordan Montanez took advantage of three running backs being out and him getting his opportunity, and he did so with the twos against the ones. So, like you said, guys who seized their opportunities today, he was one of them. And he didn't look small. Like 205 in a 5'9" frame is like someone my height is supposed to be 205, and he's that's about 8 inches shorter than me. So he might be fine right there for the moment, to be honest.
I was kind of surprised when I read that and said he's only 5'9". He certainly plays bigger than that. Yeah.
No. He looked. Yeah. I probably would have guessed 5'10", 5'11".
Yeah.
But that's how wide he is, though. Big shoulders, filled out body. Like he's well put together. I like what I saw from him as a whole today.
So, Javon, now we got to get to the kickers. And I think Syracuse has itself a bit of a kicking problem. Jaden O and Trip Woody, who was the transfer from Iowa, were the primary kickers today. As we came to learn afterwards, Chris and I were talking throughout the game, like, where the heck is Jackson Kennedy?
Yeah.
Right? I had seen Jackson Kennedy at practice, but lo and behold, as we came to find out after the game, the NCAA and its infinite wisdom. So in 2021, when Jackson Kennedy was still at Cornell, he's a redshirt senior now, he kicked 5 kickoffs and attempted 1 field goal. And they're looking at that saying that no longer makes him eligible going forward. He's used up his eligibility, right? Syracuse is trying to get eligibility for Jackson Kennedy for 1 more year. They are appealing this. Hopefully they can make a common sense case here. We've seen a lot of Syracuse versus the NCAA recently, Javon, with the Colorado Spring game and Kyle McCord. So you don't put a lot of faith in what they can do. But this, you were just shaking your head, and for good reason. This is just as dumb as it gets. I mean,
5 kickoffs and a field goal. That's 2 games. Come on.
Like, what are we doing here? Let the guy ride out 1 more season. And Syracuse needs him because, look, Jaden O last year was 2 of 5 and did not make a kick over 40 yards. Now, to his credit, today,
40 plus. Today he went 3 or 4 for 40 plus. Yeah. So that was
exactly.
big for him.
To his
Fran
credit,
Brown was happy about that. He hugged them and everything after one of them.
And by the way, how about Fran, who was out there literally on the field coaching the whole time? When the kickers lined up, Fran was in their ear.
Yeah.
Like, get right in there. Just talking the smack right until the moment they backed up and lined up the kick. So to Jaden O's credit, he did make 2 kicks over 40 yards today, but he also missed a 44-yard field goal. Trip Woody made a 29-yarder, but missed a 42-yarder. And through camp, when I've gotten an opportunity to see the kickers, I've walked away each time. And let's keep in mind, Trip Woody is a freshman, so you got to give him a chance to grow into the job. But I have not walked away from watching the kickers at all in camp, Javon, saying they're okay there. And I've expressed that to you guys. And the other day when we were making our 2 deep, I stressed to put the word "or" with the kickers. This, to me, is still very much a competition. And with Jackson Kennedy's status in doubt here, boy, you hope you get a quick answer from the NCAA, which never seems to happen in these cases, because if not, Javon, let's say Jackson Kennedy's out. You cannot go into camp feeling good that Jaden O and Trip Woody are your 2 kickers. You need somebody else in that room, which would mean, and again, a quick portal window. If there's a kicker out there that you can grab out of the portal, Syracuse is going to have to seriously consider this because the kicking situation is shaky right now. Neither Jaden O or Trip Woody, by the way, can reach the end zone on their kickoffs, which is a bit of a concern. And the consistency's not there. The power's not there from Trip. Maybe Jaden will prove me wrong and be more consistent this year, but he faded last year. Syracuse went through 3 kickers and had for a 10-win season last year, Javon, special teams overall was unfortunately a big mess on this team. It's why there's a new special teams coach, Ricky Brumfield, who came in for James Villano. So if there's one big concern you come away from today other than the secondary, I think it's got to be the kicking game.
I can't disagree with you. It's just kickers are a very, very valued commodity. It's highly unlikely that you find one in the spring window. Like, you would have to somehow discover a hidden gem at some smaller school.
That's a good point.
And win a bidding war for him. So I think you're stuck with what you've got. Fran said that Jaden O hit a 57-yarder and a 54-yarder in practice this week. If that helps anyone out, helps anyone get some sleep tonight. He looked good today. He went 2 for 3 from 40 plus. I emphasize that because he went 0 for 3 from 40 plus all of last season. Now, granted, they didn't put any real pressure on the kickers today. It's in terms of, like, rushing the kicker and actually trying to block
Exactly.
him. They didn't even rush punters today. I mean, you saw kickoffs. They would do a whole kickoff team against one returner. And punt team, they do the whole punt team and one gunner against one returner.
Yeah, they weren't messing around on special teams. They basically did not do special teams.
They basically did not have special teams.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe that's a story within itself. Like, either they don't like where they're at and they weren't going to let the world see it, or they just wanted to keep special teams healthy. But either way, it looks like, I want to see more from the special teams. It's that simple.
Yes. And look, I know this goes back to an old argument, but when you play 6 or 7 games a year indoors, you should be attracting a kicker you don't have to worry about. Let's put it that way. And Syracuse does
kickers
have
and quarterbacks should be
kickers and quarterbacks. Syracuse has a rich history of good quarterbacks, including some that have made the Hall of Fame and have been some of the best kickers at their positions in the National Football League. I think of Alindo Mare, Gary Anderson back in the day. Shout out to those of you that remember John Biscup back in the day. And it was this run of kickers that Syracuse will get. A lot of good punters in recent years. The legend Riley Dixon, of course, is still in the National Football League as it is. Jack Stonehouse is fine. I have no concerns there, but you got to find a steady, consistent kicker that's got some power behind what they do, can put the ball in the end zone on kickoffs, and is just more consistent, especially from 40 yards out. And I think people were encouraged, Javon, when they heard, hey, they got a kicker from Iowa, because that's kicker you. Iowa brings in a lot. So if Iowa thought Trip Woody was good enough to go there, I'm not saying he won't develop into their kicker and won't develop into the guy, but based on what I've seen in practice and what I saw today, let's just say he's got some work to do to lock down that position. That, to me, is very much going to be a competition right up until the moment they play Tennessee on August 30th.
You need someone who, hey, you're up 3, you're up 6, you're up 7, you're up 8, up 4, with enough time, with 4 minutes remaining, right? Or less. You need someone who can kick the ball out of the end zone and take the kick return element out of it. The last thing you want is to be in 4-minute drill or 2-minute drill, and you give up a momentum shifting kick return because your guys can't get it off the back of the end zone. So I agree with you 200% right there.
Our Syracuse Sports Insiders had a heck of a day. Busy day. We were sending you text from the spring game, video from the quad walk. Saw a bunch of you guys at the Dome today. It was great to see so many of you today. You guys were asking questions because this game was not streamed anywhere. It was a bad day if you were a Syracuse sports fan trying to find a credible stream for games, Javon. No stream whatsoever for the football game, which, by the way, briefly, for those that don't know, so the ACC gives you 3 choices. I think the ACC should give you all 3 of these, frankly, but it's the way it is. You either get a stream of the spring football game on ACC Network Extra, a 1-hour all-access show, which encompasses all of spring ball and the spring game that will repeat several times on the ACC network, or basically the ACC studio crew shows up for a half-hour show at one of your practices, right? And I think the ACC network should do all of those things, considering the programming that they need to fill most of the time, right? But Syracuse chose the all-access option, which is why this game was not streamed today. So between that and I'm going to bite my lip and I'm going to be nice. And by even being nice, Javon, the word I'm going to come up with is subpar broadcast that Corrigan Sports put out for that Syracuse Cornell game, and I'll leave it at that. Being a Syracuse Sports Insider really paid off today because we were keeping you guys in the loop. You were asking us questions. You want to know what was going on, and we are here for you on that. And you guys had some great thoughts on this one, so we wanted to get to that. And being a Syracuse Sports Insider, it's right there on your screen, is easy to sign up for. Just hit joinsubtext.com/Syracuse Sports. You can try it free for 2 weeks. It's just $3.99 a month after that. And I love this from Mike P., who leads us off here. He says, one comment for the postgame pod, Brent, from my wife. He says, will Fran only wash half of his body following this game since he'll be on both the winning and losing side of this matchup? Boy, I wish I got that question before postgame. That could have been something we could have asked Fran down there on the field after the game, Javon. But I appreciate your wife thinking of that. For those of you that remember, of course, the winners get washed situation here. Does Fran only do half of the washing because technically they won and lost today out there on the field? I like that one from Mike. From Richard C., who says, after seeing the game today, any chance you think that Collins is starting because of the money over Williams, or is it not really that close? No, it's not the money. Rickie Collins was far and away the better quarterback We lost Javon for a second there, but we got him back here. So the question I got while you were you tapped out for a second there, Javon, was this. After seeing the game today, any chance you think Collins is starting because of the money over Williams, or is it not really that close? It's not that close. Rickie Collins quickly and certainly emphatically won the starting job.
Yeah.
Jakhari won the backup job today, which I'll give him credit for. But the gap that's there between the two of them is not because Rickie is a transfer getting money. It's because he's the better quarterback, which I wish people got to see today. You're just going to have to take my word for it on that for the next 4 months or so until they play Tennessee. But no, not because of the money.
Yeah. So I like what I saw from Jakhari today, but I'm not going to say I'm confident you could put him in 15 minutes on the clock in the first quarter, and he can go out there and win you a game. Now, he might be able to go out there and not lose you a game, or keep you in a game and hope that your defense can make a splash play to turn the tide or something. But I don't think Jakhari Williams can go out there and win you a game at this moment.
You asked me about this today, and it's a stat I've brought up before. It's a trend that ended last year, right? So Kyle McCord went start to finish last year. No injuries, was not subbed out for performance, nothing. He was the guy. The last Syracuse quarterback that did that before him was Ryan Nassib in 2012. That was not replaced either by injury or performance. Now, Eric Dungy was an Iron Man and started a ton of games and played a ton of football and set records as well. But remember, Eric Dungy had to come out of a couple of games due to injury, and Tommy DeVito had to come in, win the North Carolina game, take over for Dungy. He was knocked out of a couple games. The backup quarterback matters at Syracuse. It matters a lot at Syracuse, even with what we've seen with McCord and the investment in Rickie Collins Jr. I think I feel a lot better about that today. I agree with you that Jakhari Williams can handle the job. But even with one more year of experience, Rickie Collins is just more polished, the zip on the ball, the mobility, where he comes from, Elite 11 training, what he got at LSU, the tutelage under Jaden Daniels. Like, he is ready for this job. But, man, Jakhari's right there. You see he is right there on the cusp of doing something, and he had the opportunity to show us today, and he proved it, and he's now the backup quarterback on this team. Ed P says this, Javon, nice to see Anwar Sparrow make a few plays near the end of the scrimmage as well. Seems like he's been a lost defender in the defense since the head coaching exchange. Yes, Sparrow, who, remember, went in the portal briefly in the offseason, but is back and is now a starter out there along with Derek McDonald at linebacker in that 4-2-5.
Yeah, I do want to see the linebackers be quicker to gaps, though, because you cannot blame run defense solely on the front seven, especially in the four-man front. Their job is literally to create the gaps for the linebackers to come down in. And the linebackers did not get there quick enough today. Or the box safety that Syracuse runs in that base nickel/dime that they run. All you know is 4 down linemen, 2 linebackers, normally a box safety, 2 high safeties, and 2 corners. The linebackers look athletic to me. That's the thing that I took away from camp. But there were some that I looked at, and I'm like, I don't know if they want to hit. Like, they've got good closing speed and decent pad level, but I don't know if they want to hit. And Fran Brown himself has questioned that with his group. I've seen him. There's 2 groups on defense that I've seen him spend a lot of time with this spring. It's been the corners and it's been the linebackers. And he is constantly challenging his linebackers. Like, yo, do y'all want to hit today or what? So I still need to see more from that group myself. And I'm sure Fran Brown will be hard on them in fall camp just as he was in spring practices.
Yeah, and one guy in the linebacking group, Javon, that I unfortunately have an incomplete grade on. A lot of people were curious about young Antoine Delorier, who has come in and certainly one of the more physically imposing linebackers on that team, and he's got workout videos out there, and people are really curious if he's going to get in the rotation at linebacker. Man, I'd like to see a participation chart, because if he got out there, I didn't see a lot of him. We initially thought he was going to be on the inactive list, but wasn't. I don't know. Not to sound like a coach, but I got to go back and watch the film and See if I just missed him out there. He's just somebody that did not cross my radar today. So we'll have to get back to you on that. But certainly you guys were curious about him.
He had an international visitor today. Some reporter from some outlet in Canada came down, one of the French-speaking provinces of Canada at that, came down.
Quebec?
From Quebec, actually. Yeah. It came down to do a story on the Laurier.
Interesting.
And, Tyler Katie, SU's, football SID, like, the last question, me being me, I had to ask one even after he had that. 'Cause I noticed Quincy Roche was down there, so I had to ask Fran about it. And then as we're all about to leave, like, Fran, notices the Canadian dude, and I wish I could have called his name. And Tyler was about to do his job up there. That's it. And Fran's like, hold on, let me talk to this dude because he's here for the Laurier.
There you go.
So yeah, the Laurier's got a whole backing. So it's not going to be just people on the south side of the border. Fran who said, like, hey, listen, we love Canada, and as long as Canada loves us, they're welcome to Syracuse anytime.
Absolutely. You don't have to pay tariffs on those questions down there. Oh, hey now. Had to get that in there. James W. says
offensive line coach. Sound like Dale Williams.
Dale Williams was making some tariff jokes the other day. That was great. James W. says, hopefully there's a kicker or two floating out in the portal after spring ball. Javon just made a great point about how hard that will be to find, but if you got to take a look, given what we saw today in the kicking scenario. Jared says it's one of the positions I'm really surprised they failed to bring in a solid kicker given the Dome environment. And Keith will close this out with this. I thought he made an interesting point here, Javon. With most impact players out, my question would be, why bother with this kind of spring game? I would think a regular practice would be far more beneficial, as these guys that are inactive for a game could still participate in several phases of a practice. Keith, I'm going to respectfully disagree with you on a couple of fronts. One is Syracuse has found the right formula. They play an actual game in running time for an hour and a half. You've still got to see what you got from certain positions in a game-like situation after 3 weeks of camp-like scenarios. And that's what people want to watch. And the other thing you got to mention here is it's not just a game. It's a whole day thing. Now the weather, unfortunately, was kind of crappy today. It was a misty 50-degree day in Syracuse, but that's, spring in central New York. But they had food trucks and the DJ and, the bounce houses for the kids and all that. It's a whole day of events. It starts on the quad. The team comes through the quad walk. They stayed. They signed autographs for an hour, mixed and mingled with the people. They were doing all that after the game as well. All those football diehards that love this opportunity because they feel so great about their team again to tailgate and just get together with their friends that they know are football fans. You make a day of it. And this is why you have a spring game. All these schools that are canceling spring games because they don't want, frankly, these cowards that don't want film out there or whatever they're saying. They don't want to put people out there that'll just get plucked in the transfer portal. Give me a break. Fran Brown gets it. And today was an example of why. So that's why you do it, Keith.
And you mentioned, the whole, like spring games, kind of the spring version of homecoming, the watered down version of it, and why you do it for all the off the field reasons. I'm going to give you the on the field. Keith, we appreciate you reading and listening and watching and all that good jazz. There were more than enough starters available today.
Mm-hmm.
To have a vehement discrepancy or disagreement with your comment. More than enough. And again, you had to see who was going to be your QB2 today. You needed to figure out who was going to be your wide receiver 3 today. You needed to figure out just how young your cornerback's room looks today. You needed to see what your new linebackers look like today. So, and you needed to see what your kickers look like today. So, I've got to strongly disagree with you, my friend.
In a game scenario.
Was absolutely needed. Yes.
Absolutely.
Like, one thing about me, and I got this from my days of playing basketball, I hate a practice player. I cannot stand it. Coach, what can he do in the game? What can you do in the game? I don't care that you dive on every loose ball in practice, and you know how to make the coaches feel good. Yes sir, yeah, boom. I'm set a hard screen, boom, boom. No.
Keith, do we have to go?
Can you make an
Sorry to interrupt
impact
you.
in the game? Like,
Yes.
yeah. Go ahead,
Keith,
Brent.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Javon, but Keith, do we have to go Allen Iverson on you here? Do I have to break out the most?
We talking about practice.
Not a game. not the game. When I go out there and I die for it. We're talking
about practice.
Practice.
I can't stand a practice player. So I'm all for spring game. Separate the real from the fake, the contenders from the pretenders.
And look, Syracuse has for a long time struggled with this, Javon. That's why the last 2 years have been the biggest attendance at spring games. Not only the attention with Frey and Brown, they finally figured out the way to make this an event. They struggled for years to make this an event because certain coaches didn't want to do this. They didn't want to play a real game. When I asked Frey and Brown, what are you guys doing for the spring game on Monday? What's the first thing he said? We're going to hit. Right? We're going to play football, right?
Oh, and they were hitting on Wednesday. Like let's get that out there.
They were. Yes,
I learned something about Frey and Brown on Wednesday. He is a coach who wants to make the last practice the hardest practice. And as a player, you don't appreciate that until you're done playing for that guy. But no, they were out there hitting. They had the running back. They had the defensive. They had the defense doing these closeout drills on running backs, right? And Fran had 3 walk-ons playing the role of running back. The DBs took it easy on the walk-ons. And the linebackers took it easy on the walk-ons. Brent, those big 300-pound tackles got out there. I don't know what Elijah Robinson did to make them angry that day. Oh, I felt bad for those walk-ons because they were getting hit. Oh, man, yeah. So when he said he wanted some hitting done on Wednesday, he got some hitting done. And he said they're going to hit today. I think Wednesday's practice may have been more physical than today because they want to keep their guys healthy. But they got some hitting done today.
A couple other things we want to note before we exit stage left here. There was a ribbon-cutting ceremony today. All the big wigs were there. Chancellor Severu, John Wildhack, Chris Carlson was there for us today. You got a tour of the new football facility. You'll see some of that on his timeline on social media if you want to check it out. Chris is going to write a couple stories off that to come. So they kind of had the official unveiling of the new football facility today, though Syracuse has been in it for the past couple of weeks. And there's a couple interesting things that were said that Chris is going to write about. And John Lally put it out there that they want to win the ACC. I mean, they pretty much guaranteed Syracuse is going to win the ACC. So shout out to John Lally for that, whose name is literally on the building. So he can say what he wants to say whenever he wants to say it, right? But they did that today. As part of the whole day and weekend of festivities, there was a Syracuse football NIL panel on Friday. Scott Hansen, David Falk, Dwight Freeney, Justin Pugh, Kyle McCord was at that. Kyle McCord was at the spring game today as well. And it was revealed on Friday, for those that didn't hear, that Dwight Freeney, Hall of Famer, one of the greatest defensive ends in the history of Syracuse football, history of the National Football League too, is now on the staff in player development. So a huge addition to the coaching staff on Friday. We've got a story up on that on syracuse.com. If you want to check it out as well. So there's been a lot of football news and notes and big things happening heading into spring game weekend here. And there is one more practice. The spring game does not cap spring ball. There's still one more practice on Monday. And Javon and I are going to get back together next week and do a pod. And I'm informing of Javon right now. But I think he's on board. But we're going to get back together next week, and we're going to recap everything we saw in spring and just kind of put a bow on everything. But there's still one more practice to go, and then the portal opens, and before you know it, training camp's going to be knocking on the door. Right? We've been talking football here. We've got a lot of recruiting stuff to do and keep track of, and feels like football is just this 12-month-a-year thing, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll be all over it.
2 things. Number one, I like this dot your I's and cross your T's final practice thing. I like that. But number 2, before we get to training camp, hey, Brent, don't forget, we've got the NFL draft coming up, man. We've got to figure out where Kyle McCord's going. Kyle McCord took a visit to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who do not have a quarterback.
No, they don't.
You know,
they're waiting for Aaron Rodgers to come out of his latest darkness retreat and let them know
Brent,
exactly what he's doing.
My chiropractor's a Jets fan, and he was telling me today he just cannot thank the good Lord above enough for Aaron Rodgers no longer being part of his life. So
now I'm glad you reminded me of that, because boy, there's going to be a lot to talk about draft-wise. I do have a pod up now with ESPN's Jordan Reed. We went over all of the Syracuse guys and where they can end up getting drafted, but we'll be all over that the next couple of weeks heading into the NFL draft, which is April 24th through the 26th, and what could be the longest list of Syracuse players drafted in over 20 years, Kyle McCord included. So we'll keep our eyes on that and discuss that on the pod, and so much to come. But thanks to everybody that hung out with us throughout spring, throughout the pods. Being a Syracuse Sports Insider, we really appreciate your dedication, your questions, your analysis, just shooting the breeze, talking SU sports, talking some football with us as spring camp comes down, the end of the highway here, and the NFL draft's coming, and so much to report on lacrosse-wise still. The basketball transfer portal still open. Syracuse has been busy there, so we'll keep you up to date on all of that on the Syracuse Sports Insider text line on syracuse.com. And please remember to subscribe to this pod on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, so when a new episode of Syracuse Sports pops up, you won't miss a thing. You won't get lost in the pod world like my friend Javon did at the Dome today. It's okay. It's his first time at the Dome.
Brent, can I give you something quick on that? So
yes, you can. I had to come find Javon. He was lost.
He had to come find me because I forgot to go up another flight of steps. I don't know how I forgot. The funny thing is, I'm praying for Brent to come get me because I just got done chopping it up with Quincy Roche in the tunnel. So like I came down with Chris Carlson, everyone. So that was supposed to be my escort back up. But I saw Quincy Roche in the tunnel. I had to go talk to my guy. So, funny thing, I got a funny Roche story. So, he had came back for a Temple spring game in 2022. And it was E.J. Warner's first year as Temple's quarterback. Actually, no, he was visiting. He was going to come to Temple that fall and eventually would start the quarterback job. And Kurt Warner was there. So I'm in Edward Olson Hall talking to Quincy Roche, and as we're coming out, there's a holdup at the door. We're like, what in the world is the holdup? And the security guard is not letting NFL Pro Football Hall of Famer Kurt Warner in the door. I'm like, dude, do you know who this is? He's like, no, he asked Kurt, he's like, you look familiar. Have I seen you somewhere? I'm like, dude, that's Kurt Warner. Come on, Kurt. Come on in, man. So that's my Roche story. So I saw Roche today. I'm talking to him. Chris goes upstairs. I'm like, all right, I got this. I can find my way back. And I can't. I'm calling Chris. He's not answering. I text the group chat like, hey, fellas, I'm lost. I'm downstairs from the press box. And I look to my right, and there's Elijah Robinson and Quincy Roche. I'm like, dude, I cannot let Quincy Roche know I got lost in here. Brent needs to come get me. So, I got lost at the Dome today. Folks.
Listen, don't feel bad. It's your first time. You'll get used to it. Navigating the bowels of the Dome takes a couple of times. And look, when we went to Vegas, when Syracuse played UNLV, I got lost in Allegiant Stadium. That place,
that's understandable.
That place is huge. It's like literally getting lost in the Death Star. I was lost in 20 minutes in that place. So it happens. But what do you say we wrap it up there for this edition of Syracuse Sports? Thank you so much to everybody for hanging out with us here tonight. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy the Masters. Rory McIlroy, Bryson DeChambeau, ready to go at it tomorrow. And we'll be back with you with another episode of Syracuse Sports next week and plenty more spring football coverage and more to come. But thank you for hanging with us tonight. Everybody enjoy the rest of your weekend. We'll talk to you next time. For Javon Edmonds, I'm Brent Axe. This has been another live edition of Syracuse Sports